extraterrestrial life present on Earth. Is this an elaborate fantasy? Are aliens science fiction? Or is there something to claims of their existence?
Extraterrestrial life. For ages, humanity has wondered, is there anything else in the cold darkness of space? Skeptics say there is no proof, but there have always been those who dared to dream. And some even claim to have seen things with their own eyes. Do aliens exist? Are they already here? Do they pose a threat or a chance for salvation?
The Honourable Paul Hellyer, former Minister of Defence of Canada, and he believes that life forms from space exist and are present on Earth. It's great to have you with us on our show. Why do you say that UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying over our heads?
Well, because I know that they are. They've been, as a matter of fact, they've been visiting our planet for thousands of years. And one of the cases that would interest you most, if you give me 2 or 3 minutes to answer, is during the Cold War in 1961, there were about 50 UFOs in formation flying south from Russia to across Europe. And the Supreme Allied Commander was very concerned and about ready to press the panic button when they turned around and went back over the North Pole. So they decided to do an investigation, and they investigated for 3 years, and they decided that with absolute certainty that 4 different species at least, had been visiting this planet for thousands of years. So that's, we have a long history of UFOs, and of course there's been a lot more activity in the last few decades since we invented the atomic bomb, and they're very concerned about that and the fact that we might use it again. And because the whole cosmos is a unity, and it affects not just us, but other people in the cosmos, they're very much afraid that we might be stupid enough to start using atomic weapons again, and this would be very bad for us and for them as well.
So no serious scientist has ever publicly confirmed evidence of an encounter with extraterrestrials. Why would scientists not confirm the facts if they exist?
I'm afraid they must go out of their way not to find out. Because if they did, even 10% of the amount of research I've done in the last 8 years, they would be as convinced as I am. I mean, they could do it even faster. Might take them a little longer when they didn't have a military background. But there are so many wonderful books that tell these stories, and they've been authenticated. The sightings have been authenticated by more than one witness, and also by radar. And they have landed in various places around the world, including Russia. There's a famous case there. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was widely reported at the time. A man wrote a book about it, and then the French bought the book rights so that it wouldn't be circulated around. There's just so much evidence. If anybody will take the time off to do a little bit of research and study. But people just are, some people are interested and will take the time, and the others just say, it's just fantasy. Mm-hmm. But since I've been public on this subject, I get probably 3 or 4 emails a week from all over the world from people who have actually witnessed sightings. And some of them who have actually been on the ships, and some of them who have actually been transported to another planet. And so this information is not, it is top secret in a way that the governments aren't talking about it. But if you listen to the whistleblowers and the people who have worked in the industry and who know what is going on, there is just a lot of information out there, and it doesn't take very long to get your hands on it.
But see, the problem is that some people who report UFO sightings and alien abductions have been shown to make things up, and to make things up to be famous, to make money, or just for a prank. How do we tell fiction from a fact?
Well, you have to spend a lot of time trying to find, we used to say, separating the wheat from the chaff, and it takes a lot of effort. When I was minister, I got sighting reports And when we checked them out, about 80%, about 8 out of 10, were not real. They were sites of Venus or plasma or, a dozen other things. But there were 15 or 20% for which there was no explanation, and they were the genuine unidentified flying objects. These things go way back. One of the conferences I went to was in Las Vegas, was promoted by a chap who had written a book about crashes. And there were dozens and dozens and dozens of them, and many of them very, very well authenticated, so that it would be impossible to read all of that evidence and not to come to the conclusion that these vehicles were real.
Have you ever had your own encounter with aliens?
Not encounter with aliens, no. I have seen a UFO about 120 miles north of Toronto, over Lake Muskoka, where I have a cottage. And 2 years ago, last Canadian Thanksgiving, which is October, my wife decided she wanted to go out and look at the stars. So I'm not much of a night man, but I put on my cap and went out with her. And she looked into the eastern sky and said, "There's a star." And I turned around the other way and I said, "Oh, there's a much brighter one over here." And she looked, and it was, and we watched it until our necks almost broke for about 20 minutes. And it was definitely a UFO, because it could change position in the sky by 3 or 4 degrees in 3 or 4 seconds. And I checked out, there were no satellites that could do that. The space station wasn't going by, and it isn't able to move that fast anyway. And there was nothing, no other explanation except that it was the real thing. And 2 days later, I went down in the dock, got a comfortable chair, and watched it came back almost to the same spot and entertained me for as long as I could take it. And then I went back to the cottage. But it was very interesting, because it would drop down in the sky, and then it would roar back up, and then it would shift across a few degrees and do a circle and come back at a speed, but just astronomical speeds. As you know, they travel very, very fast.
So does it just look like a falling star that falls really quickly and then rises again? What does it look like?
Well, it just looked like a star.
It just looks like a star. Right.
And I don't know if you're a person who has ever read the Bible or not, but I think the Star of Bethlehem is one of God's flying saucers.
Mm-hmm. But you also tell me that people write you emails, 3 or 5 emails a week, and they've actually been abducted, or they have encounters with the aliens. Do they actually tell you what these aliens look like? I mean, everyone's interested. How would I know if I see an alien and if he abducts me?
Well, the first question you have to ask is, how many species are there? And I used to think there were, between 2 and 12. And Apollo astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who came to Toronto a few years ago and had dinner with us, agreed that it was somewhere between 2 and 12. But the latest reports that I've been getting from various sources are that there are about 80 different species. And some of them look just like us, and they could walk down the street and you wouldn't know if you ran, walked past one. And they're what we call the Nordic blondes, and also the tall whites, who were actually working with the United States Air Force in Nevada. They're able to get away with that. They had a couple of their ladies dressed as nuns went into Las Vegas to shop, and they weren't detected. And I have a friend who saw one of the men walking along the street, and somebody who would recognize that they were different, and he did. So there are those kind, and then there are the short grays, as they're called, and they're the ones that you see in most of the cartoons. Have very, very slim arms and legs, and they're very short, just a little over 5 feet, and they have a great big torso and a great big head and great big brown eyes. But there are different species, so you have to know that they're different species, and it's and know that they're all different. Mm-hmm. So
So,
if you saw the short grays, you'd certainly know that there was something up that you'd never seen before. But if you saw one of the Nordic blondes, well, you'd probably say, "Oh, I wonder if she's from Denmark or somewhere," you know.
So this species that you're describing, are they all different in terms of nice and mean? Are some of them nice and benevolent? Are others nasty? Or how are they? Are they good to people on Earth, or are they here to harm them?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer because they have different agendas. And maybe all of us on Earth should have the same agenda, but you couldn't say maybe that Russia and China and the United States all had the same agenda at every turn, because they don't. And I would say that nearly all are benign, they're benevolent, they want to help us. There may be one or two species which do not. And that's one of the things I'm investigating at the moment, is to see who they are and what they're up to and what their agendas really are.
All right, we're talking to Paul Hellyer, former Canadian Minister of Defense, who says extraterrestrial life forms exist and are present on Earth. We'll talk more about what they are and why they're here after a short break. Stay with us.
On their way to Antarctica, the crew of the academic Fyodorov face many challenges.
Here you have to look out for yourself.
Crashing onto rocks, trapped in pack ice. In extreme conditions, anything can happen.
Antarctica always comes up with surprises. You have to keep your eyes open because there's always something going wrong.
The ship carries huge reserves of water, food, fuel, as well as helicopters and people able to survive extreme conditions. They're ready for anything, even an apocalypse.
She's really an incredible ship.
Calling all Antarctica stations. This is Academic Fyodorov. Radio check. Please respond.
Unexplored Antarctica. What is it in this icy expanse that attracts the people who come here?
Now I only go to the dacha. And Antarctica.
A new generation of polar explorers is coming.
We have a new group of specialists here now. All of them are young. How are they going to get along with each other? I don't know.
Who are they?
I used to be a bureaucrat. Seriously.
What adventures await in this mysterious land? Where do they live? What do they eat? And what are they actually doing in Antarctica?
"12 months of change. The moments which redefine the world we live in. RT was there to bring you the full picture.
Clash with the police. The police are holding their breath. Envoy to close a camp that is a dark spot on American.
Built the barricades which the police had taken down.
On New Year's Eve, our global team of reporters and contributors revisit the key events of 2013 and outline what to expect next. Join Anissa Nawi and Kevin Owen for our annual 2-hour news special. Start 2014 with RT.
With Paul Hellyer, former Canadian Minister of Defense, to talk about extraterrestrial life forms. Great to have you back. So, these extraterrestrial creatures, where did they come from and how did they get here to Earth?
They come from various places. For a long while, I only knew about ones who